What's up, folks? I want to talk about, once again, one of my favorite things in the game, called DoT. But this time, we are Wintertide Brand, Low-Life Occultist. This has been the kind of continuation of me trying different cold DoT abilities in the game, and I got recommended Wintertide by one of my mods, LimeDevil, and I gotta say I'm very, very pleased with how the build went. Basically, it has all the benefits of Vortex with big ES pulls and the regen as well as the chill effects that you get from being an occultist, but it also comes with the added benefit that you're ranged because of the way that you're brands rather than having to stand on enemies, which is really, really nice. It's actually been so nice that I've somehow gotten 96, which for anyone that follows my stuff is pretty rare. I usually get about 93, 94. This guy I took all the way to 96, and I'm still playing it. I'm still grinding with it. It's a lot of fun. So, how does it all come together? What does it do? And how does it work? First of all, we are Wintertide Brand with 2123 because they cost like 5C, which is amazing. So you can get all that from there, along with your Hypothermia, Swift Afflictions, Efficacy, Elemental Focus, and Awakened Control Destruction. All mine are awakened. You, of course, can start with your non-awakened setups. They'll cost you nothing. And then if you really want to go ham, you can pick up all the awakened stuff, and it's even better that way. We do put down many brands, and you can attach 5 to an enemy at one time. So we do have a lot of the brand nodes on the tree, but there's something very specific you have to worry about with Wintertide Brand specifically, which is your cast speed. Your cast speed and your duration have to work. So I'll get back to the gear in a second, and I'll go over that, but just keep in mind, this is it's a little weird to build, but once you get the understanding of it, you'll be just fine. Then we also have Faster Casting, Flame Dash, Second Wind, and Arcane Surge. That's just our movement ability. It lets us move around, do our stuff, have an easy mobility setup, and get that little bit of Arcane Surge. I only use a level 6 because I do have the cost being 31 as a result of lowering the cost by being full energy shield from the tree. So normally that would be a little bit higher level, but here I just wanted to always up, so I left it to always be online. We have the shield with Zealotry, Prism Guardian, we have the Prism Guardian shield with Zealotry, Malevolence, and Hatred. Prism Guardians right now are pretty pricey for a non-corrupted one. I got this one for 50C. Depending on the meta, they range vastly in prices, but this one was 50C corrupted. If you can get one non-corrupted, cool. If you can't, don't worry about it. Just buy it corrupted and then just deal with the linkage through the Valor process. Running Zealotry, Malevolence, and Hatred in here lets us reserve all our life along with the 3 nodes here. That makes it so we can reserve the entire HP pool and have a pretty good time doing that. Then we also have an Enlighten with Discipline, Frostbite, and Blasphemy. This is to reserve even more of our mana to make use of all of it. The Enlighten, I think you could get by with Enlighten 3, but you'll have to run a little bit lower Clarity. I'm running Clarity just so I don't have any mana issues at all, so I could just keep casting. So that's the reason I have Clarity in this setup. But if you don't have an Enlighten 4, you're running Enlighten 3, Enlighten 2, just de-level your Clarity. You have a lot of mana reserve. If you don't need Clarity, then you really don't even need the Enlighten anymore. But for me, it really helps to have that in there, so I ended up slapping it in for the benefit. Then we also have Cold Snap, Bone Chill, and Orb of Storms. I am self-casting Orb of Storms right now. I was trying to create myself a trigger wand with 4-second trigger, so Aisling Samming it, but because they're really rare and really expensive to do, I decided to not do that and just self-cast Orb of Storms to keep my Elemental Overload and Elemental Equilibrium up as to my command rather than waiting on the trigger of the 8 seconds. So that's just a personal thing if you want to self-cast that or not. You'll probably need an 8 or a 4-second trigger. Maybe. You can get by with an 8, it just doesn't feel as comfortable. In the trigger, we have Frost Bomb, Arc, and Increased Crits. This is just helping with a little bit of the uptime for Elemental Overload, as well as Arc doing some EE action, and then Frost Bomb just on command. When it's on cooldown, we can put it where we want to. On boss fights, you just have to be a little bit careful with your timings if you want to make sure you land the Frost Bomb on your enemy. It's not that hard. And then beyond that, gearing-wise, we do just have a normal basic energy shield, recharge rate, and resistance rings, energy shield, recharge rate, and aspect of the spider. That is the last aura that is reserving our stuff, as we do have Aspect of the Spider in the build, because it does give us that defense and more stacking. If you do Chill and Aspect of the Spider, things are really slow around you, so it's really nice, really easy to work with, and very, very defensive. Bated Breath is still kind of just best in slot with the way I build it. I'll be giving a link to both one that is double cluster setup or my setup, which is energy shield recharge rate. If you don't want to do the energy shield recharge rate and rather have the energy shield on kill, which uses 2 cluster jewels, then you could go that route. I prefer recharge rate. It's just however you want to play. Then you could go with a normal belt, or maybe still just stick with Bated Breath. It's up to you. Gloves, nothing special, just ES and resistances. Same with boots, ES, resistances. I just got crafted movement speed because I really didn't care. I was trying to get some chaos resist on these, landed strength and int, whatever. It is what it is. The chevrons, just normal chevrons. They were pretty cheap once you get later on to the league. I tried to double corrupt a bunch and failed, and now I have a tabular chevrons. Helmet, I have a 358. You don't need a 358. This was not worth the amount of dense fossils and exalts I had to throw at it. You do want the -9 cold resist. That is very, very strong, but you could go for like a 250, 240 even. You'll be fine. You don't need 10.5k ES. It's just overkill at this point. But you do want the minus cold, so if you get that, definitely get that. Wand is a little tricky because, once again, let's go back to that cast speed thing. You need activations per brand to be at whatever you need, whatever your max stage is. So mine is +4 max stages, so I need 24 activations at least per brand. Now when it comes to the tree, you can get some stuff in terms of brand duration, you can get some stuff in terms of cast speed, you can get some stuff in terms of more cast speed here. But even with all of that said and done, you will need some cast speed on your wand, which makes it a little tricky to get. Now, I picked up one that was fractured with plus cold gems and spammed it with essences. I don't know if that's the right way to do it. I don't know if it's better to go fossils, maybe self-craft on the cast speed, multi-mod around it. There's a lot of weird options for it, but the main things you want is you want at least the implicit cast speed, +1 cold, and then whatever amount of cast speed you need to hit 24, and I'll show you in Path Building in just a second what that looks like. But other than that, cold damage over time multiplier, damage over time multiplier. Wintertide Brand gets benefits from being spell damage based. So if you modifies the spell damage, so you can get, you know, some spell damage on your wand, that's fine. There's a lot of options for it, but the big one is plus cold, cast speed, and then you're going to need that open suffix for the trigger. So those are the 3 things you really are looking for. Anything you get on top of that is just icing on the cake. The one thing you do have to avoid completely is you cannot get adds cold damage to spells or added cold damage to, like, on rings or something like that. You cannot have that, because if you have that, you don't have EE. So your elemental equilibrium does break if you end up going that route. So you definitely do not want to get that. So if you're spamming frigid fossils or something like that to try to get a better one, you got to avoid that one. So you're either going to annul it or you're going to just have to re-roll over that. Overall, the gear is very basic, very simple to do. The only tricky part may be your wand. Other than that, this is just all ES and resistance gear, along with, of course, the presence of Shula, with Tranquility as the anointment, because Tranquility is just still one of the strongest anointments you can get for a low-life setup like this. And other than that, it's really, really, really straightforward. When it comes to the tree, I do have my cluster jewels set up, which I can actually show you easier in a game, because I can zoom in quicker. The biggest cluster jewel you need at level 40 to make it feel good is Holy Conquest, and that's it. If you have Holy Conquest, you'll feel fine at level 40, leveling it all the way from the beginning as Wintertide Brand. I went from 1 to Wintertide Brand, which is, I believe, is 12, and then 12 to 40, and then slapped in the Holy Conquest right up here, and just ran through the game like it was absolutely nothing. My early stage leveling, I just literally went through here, picked up Elemental Overload, picked up Elemental Equilibrium, put my points into here, came for Rune Binder, put in Holy Conquest, done, and then filled out the rest of the tree. Probably, I think I remember going this way and then getting the Thread of Hope in. The Thread of Hope is pretty good for you as well, because it lets you get a bunch of these nodes on the edges here, which gives you a whole lot. This is actually one of the best thread hopes I think you can get from most characters, where you just have so many good things. Not this one, but so many good things on the pathway to it, and that is a very large. No other size works here, so please do get a very large and a minus of the lowest resist you can. Minus 12 was the one I could afford at the time, so that's the one I stuck with. Then, in terms of your rest of your clusters, you do want 2 energy from knots. Those are really, really powerful. And for me, I've got Chaos Resist on one, and I got Dex on the other. We do have a bit of a Dex issue on this build, so you're going to have to be squeezing Dex in somewhere, and that's where having that flexibility in the gear is very good. If you can get yourself some of these rolls like Strength and Dex, Strength and Int. If you got 2 Strength and Dex rolls, you'll be fine. You don't even need the Strength roll to be doubled up. You can get Dex and Int, Strength and Dex. The biggest issue is that your Awakened Swift Affliction, if you do go the Awaken route, requires 126 Dex at the top end, and we're kind of pretty close to that. Basically, if we didn't have this Cluster Jewel, we would not have the ability to run that. So that's going to be kind of an issue to keep in mind. So if you can get some Dex on one of your clusters, that's really, really good. Brand Loyalty is the other one you want to get on your Holy Conquest. It's just more damage because you have 3 things attached to them, which is fantastic. The other one is just Deep Chill, Brush with Death. Deep Chill is just for damage, and of course the effect of the chill. And then Brush with Death is the other setup they'll show you, which is 2 large clusters. LimeDevil stacks Brush with Death, so he's got 3% life on kill and 3% energy shield on kill. The energy shield on kill is really, really powerful. If you are doing Trial Masters and stuff like that, that just basically keeps you alive and keeps you immortal when you have this much ES. So that's a really, really good setup to use. If you want to go that route, path building is in the description. The other thing is your large cluster. You kind of just get whatever you can get on it. If you can get Disoriented Display, which I've gotten, it's really, really, really good. Hopefully they don't nerf it, but if they do, then maybe it's not as good. But it's very good. If you can get it on your large, do get it. I believe I just bought this one by alt spamming a cold with either Reforges or Dense Fossils, or not Dense Fossils, Fridge Fossils or something. I forgot exactly how I made this. It's been a week or so. But just get something that allows you to get the rest of the stuff in. What these nodes are overall isn't the biggest thing, but if you can get display, do get that. And then for me, I'm running a faster recharge rate of Energy Shield, Discipline, Watcher's Eye, and a -9 clarity. This didn't cost me much at all. I think it was like an X for this. It's not a very used one, but it does make it a little bit nicer to not have to worry about any mana problems at that level 20 clarity, so you can just run around like a maniac and not care about it. If you can't get this one, or if you want more damage ones, you can get a Hatred Cold, not Hatred Cold, you can get a Hatred, yeah, Cold % damage. You can get one for like Malevolence. There's a couple options you can get if you want to go that route. I personally just like the ease of not caring about it and slapping that in there. Of course, you got to have your energy from within to turn these into energy shield nodes here. And then finally, the biggest thing for me that I kind of had to do on the build is, as you can tell, this one is you cannot be hindered, and then this one is corrupting blood cannot be inflicted on you. This was the cheapest of my jewel options to get for corrupting blood, which was about 3.5x. As you saw in the beginning with the running of the map, you can easily take the Saw Blades option over and over again, and with Corrupting Blood immunity, not really fear it too much. I run all my maps with the idea of doing as much chance of Trial Master as possible, so basically making sure that if I do get a Trial Master, it's one that I can run, and having the Corrupting Blood immunity is really, really strong for that, and I would highly recommend it. Other than that, there isn't much to say about the build. It's really good, it's really smooth, it plays very, very well, and overall I don't have any reason not to recommend it to someone, where I think it's even possible to league start with this. You go life-based, you go more Vortex, and then once you get the Cluster Jewel, you switch over to Wintertide, and then you use Wintertide to get yourselves a Shavs, and then go low life and all that stuff. So you could probably just start with this, league start, just like I've done with the Vortex characters, and then overall transition into it. This is stronger than Vortex. I have quite a lot of damage going on in the build, and that comes from the activations per brand. And this is what I was talking about with cast speed. So when you look at how much you're doing in terms of DPS, you have to make sure that in the duration of skill duration for the main effect, so the 2.66 seconds that your skill is active on an enemy, you have enough hit rate, which is done by cast speed, to hit this activations per brand to say 24. So the more cast speed I get at this point, so let's say if I were to tick my flask, you can tell I go to 26 activations per brand. Now that's not necessary as long as you hit 24, and right now what's happening is my onslaught flask is giving me the rest of that there. But this is the number you have to look for, and that's what you kind of have to go and look for on the tree, is get the cast speed there, get some cast speed here, get some cast speed on your wand. And that's why when it comes to your overall damage, it's actually really important to focus on getting that wand to have that cast speed, because if you're not hitting max stack, you're losing a lot of more multiplier, because every stack is a little bit more. That was a weird sentence to say, but you get the idea. And generally, this number in Path of Building is not your true DPS, even if you turn them all on and you look at the configuration and calculation. There are Wintertide Brand calculators out there. I think they say I'm doing somewhere from 6 to 8 million. I don't know. I haven't looked at the actual number. It's just what people in chat have told me, and to me, I'm doing Awakener, I'm doing Maven, I'm doing Trial Masters. This guy's already killed 7 Trial Masters. I'm doing maps. I don't know. I don't know how much damage I'm actually doing. I'm just doing enough damage that it feels good, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. If you have any other questions, do leave it in the comments down below, or check it out on Twitch. I'm more than welcome to answer any questions regarding the build, and I hope you try it. It's really good. I have plenty of options in terms of how to get to it, from life and low life and all that stuff. You can choose your path. Me, I just went straight to low life because it was my second character league. Easy enough to afford chevrons at that point, and just have a good time with it. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. If you want to check out the Path of Building for my version of the tree, or LimeDevils' version, which uses 2 cluster jewels, they'll both be linked down below. He uses one over here, and he doesn't use as much of the energy shield regen, so if you want to do a more damage-based, more kill-based one, his does more damage than mine does, but I like the playstyle of regen. I like taking the hit and then running away and then just having it regen really quickly. If you don't like that, options aplenty for you there as well. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.